It would be totally different.
Yeah.
I understand that because I do believe that it's unfair to think everybody has the same path.
Nobody has the same path. I wasn't supposed to end up on stage at a strip club. I was supposed to end up on stage at the Grammys, background dancing for Madonna. That was my life path. I was a ballet dancer. I was technically trained in dance. My high school was like Fame. That's why I became so good at strip, because I was already a dancer.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like I went to private school and tennis lessons, and I was my mother's golden child because my father, who was married when he had me and my sister 16 days later by another woman, his family was rich. His father became a millionaire in 1962, self-made, and he came from this family, and my mother wanted, you know, I don't know if she wanted in, but whatever the case, I was her golden child. You know, I was put on a pedestal. I was smart and talented, and you know, I was her ticket into this family that she was able to kind of live a better life with. You know, like my grandmother owned a house in the shore that we spent every summer at, and my grandfather had an in-ground pool, and you know, the Christmas tree would be 14 feet because the ceilings was that high. You know what I'm saying? And my mom was selling weed out the back door and being a nurse, CNA, not a CNA. She was a home health care aide on the side. She sold weed out the back door, and you know, she collected food stamps for her 4 kids and 13 grandchildren, however many it is. You know what I'm saying? So it was like, this was her life, but this is what this man had over here, and I was the key to unlock her into this lifestyle.
Which you ended up having, or you still have at the end of the day. It's definitely a rougher patch, but
Just gotta be realistic with the world though, because it's like,
she earns the top 5% income in the U.S. as right.
No, that's not the thing. See, that's dope. See, I'm all for trials, tribulations, and then your outcome. That's your story. It's a beautiful thing, right?
I'm for that too.
But like, you know, it's like there's many guys, like going on the flip end on the guy side, who are in the streets, right? And they get money, you know what I'm saying? But some of them, not even some of them, 1% of them, just like 1% of her, make it out and transform the business. 99% of them die or they go to jail.
Oh, I did 90 days on Rikers Island too.
See?
When I was 22 years old.
And the thing is, like, my biggest thing is that we have to also understand, because like, she's a legend.
She's the exception.
She's an exception to the rule, and people need to understand. Like, it's dope to look up to people like herself who have a similar story and journey, but they need to understand that the odds are usually not in your favor. You know what I mean?
Lucky. I feel like I cheated death a few times. I feel like I've been dealt with some hard cards, but I somehow always seem to win. Going back to how I ended up Magic City and that whole thing. So after leaving this apartment, I left this apartment because I felt like, okay, sooner or later something's going to happen here, and I got to remove myself and my child. So I worked on getting my own place, and literally within a month of me moving out, that place and like 3 other places that they had got raided. And there was some jail time amongst the guys. There was some lives lost throughout that time. My best friend, who was the girlfriend of one of the main guys, she ended up passing away in a car accident where me and my daughter were supposed to be in that car. So I feel like that was the first time I cheated death.
Yeah.
That really changed me. I didn't stay in the house too much longer after she passed away. I went to, my daughter's father's family. I ended up losing my apartment, and I went to live in the apartment where he got killed in. And I met another young man from that shady area of North Philadelphia who eventually tried to take my life when I tried to break up with him. I went to my mother's house at 3 a.m. with my daughter, my purse, the clothes on my back, and a diaper bag. And my mother told me that I could stay with her for 48 hours, but then I would have to figure out where I was going. She could have been planning my funeral in 48 hours. This man woke me up with a knife to my throat. He could have decapitated me and my child. You could be planning both of our funerals. And she told me that I had to get out of her house, and like I only had 48 hours to figure it out, right? I didn't even stay 48 minutes. I went and moved. My god sister had just bought a house, and I went and I moved into her unfinished, moldy, damp basement. And I didn't have anything. I'm starting from scratch. I have no car, I have no clothes, I have a 2-year-old with no father, and I'm in survival mode. So I get a phone call from a friend of hers who she had given my number to, and it's this guy named Mikey, and he's like, I can get you some money. You take a trip to Jamaica. I went to Jamaica. I swallowed 90 grams of heroin. And on my way to the airport, they're like, we'll give you another $3,000 if you take this suitcase. So I'm like, okay, what's with the suitcase? They like, it's weed, but they'll never find it. They found the weed.
Of course they would.
So I got arrested for the weed in JFK Airport. But 12 and a half pounds of weed in JFK Airport in January of 2000 was like 12 grams of weed today. You know what I'm saying? Like,
it wasn't like the end of the
I got
world.
a slap on the wrist for that.
Yeah.
I was 19. I was a first-time offender. You know, I got 5 years probation, and I had to pay like $1,500 restitution.
Yeah.
I ended up
Thank God it was the-
jail. Right. Oh, I gave them the heroin. I shitted it out. One of the... No, I did. I shitted it out. That's a whole nother story. But
I was worried, like, yo, so what happened to the heroin?
So I went through intake and processing. They took me from the airport holding to Rikers Island intake processing, and I made the phone call. So the phone call was, do I call my brothers and tell them that I'm holding 90 grams of heroin and to come get me from jail, or do I call Mikey and give him back his shit? Who y'all think I called?
Mikey.
Mm-hmm.
I fucking knew it. Why didn't you call your brothers?
Because Mikey knew where my sister lived, and Mikey could have possibly come back and hurt my family over this 90 grams of heroin.
True.
So
Possible.
and they were yeah
True,
right
true,
and they were mad that I didn't call them, but I'm like I couldn't call y'all.
Wait, where was your daughter?
That's a funny story. So again, I was a dancer, right? I was a dancer. Like I was like a real like hip hop. I was in a hip hop group that we did like talent shows and hair shows and shit. Like all of the fire ass hair salons would hire us to do their hair shows and that whole thing. Like, you know, really choreographed dancer. So I have a cousin who owns a barbershop in Philly, and he was like my second dad. Like we were like really, really tight. And I was always a shampoo girl at his barbershop. Whenever I felt like I wanted a job, I would go to the barbershop and wash hair. And he was really close with my daughter. So he kept my daughter for the 2 weeks that was in Jamaica. But I told him that I was going to Jamaica because I was a background dancer for Eve, and that she was touring in Jamaica, and that was why I was going to
You
Jamaica.
was lying.
I lied. I couldn't tell him I was going to swallow drugs.
I mean, she's on survival mode.
I'm not mad at it.
And part of
I was that 2-year-old.
part of-
like, I get it. I was the one watching it. Like, what the fuck going on?
So I ended up getting restitution. I violated my probation a couple of years later, and when I went to court, the judge remanded me to Rikers Island for 90 days. So that's why I did 90 days at.
Probation violation.
Yeah,
BOP.
I moved.
Well,
I
that's-
moved.
No, I don't.
Then didn't tell him, and I moved from Philadelphia to Montgomery County, and didn't tell the courts or whatever. I didn't know I had to. And somehow they found out, and I got a letter in the mail saying that I had a court date. So I show up to court with Cousin Jay, thinking I was going, say I'm sorry. And no, the judge was like, remand. And I'm like, what does that mean? And they're like, man, put your hands behind your back.
Yep.
So
It's time to go.
I spent 90 days on Rikers Island. Now, at that time, I was dancing. And I was dancing at a club in Philadelphia. Again, one of those Spearmint Rhino clubs, right? And I was
we had a moment where we understood.
Yeah, what
She's
kind of
just
club?
bringing it back.
Yeah. So I was dancing at this club at the time, and I was a sugar baby. I was having multiple relationships with older married men for money. I was probably fucking one of my homegirls' baby daddies. I was a bully. There's a very popular girl who I will name off camera who I bullied the fuck out of in the strip club. And I regret it today, but I was a mean girl. I was a bitch. I had got fired from the first club I danced at because I had a glass like this in my hand, and I punched a girl in the face, and the this part broke, and you see the scar right here, 10 stitches in my hand. Who knows how many was in her face. And I was fired, and then I became like a strip club legend. I became like the crazy black girl.
They say Geminis are crazy.
Yeah. So I ran with like the crazy black girl thing. I took that to the new club, and I ran with like, I'm a fucking crazy ass black bitch, so don't fuck with me, you stupid ass white bitch, because I will fuck you up. Okay. So, and that was
It
bad.
worked.
It was terrible. It worked, but it was I was a bad person. At the same
You were a hurt person.
Nice circus.
at the
Yeah, you were a
same
hurt
time,
person.
I'm popping X pills every night to work. I'm drinking apple martinis and kamikaze shots. That's like 6 ounces of vodka at a time. I'm 90 pounds. And I'm drinking and drugging and eating McDonald's and just not taking care of myself at all. And I had I have a trait for polycystic kidney disorder. So I kept ending up in the hospital. I was sick. My bills wasn't getting paid. I was spending my money on Versace, and I was just being hella reckless. So I feel like I needed to do that 90 days so that I could take a time out and step back and realize that all of my problems stem from my actions, and that I did not need to be a mean bitch, and that I did not need to be fucking on these married men for money, and I